All right. Okay. Happy to have anybody here who's here. Doesn't look like there's a lot of people in. If you are here, then just put a comment in there, and glad to have you along. It's Friday, beautiful day, getting ready to do a little mini vacation, so it's good stuff. And today we're going to be converting to TypeScript. We're going to be converting JavaScript to TypeScript. So our code is over here in this repository, and let's just clone it, see what we got, have some fun. I like these because they're kind of little puzzles, and sometimes I've forgotten what I did myself. So, it's nice to get another try at it. Let's see, do I have something called, what is it again? Converting to TS? I do. Okay, so let me move that to old. Oops. And then we'll clone that. Well, not clone it. Let's npxd get that. And what? They're just being crazy now. Okay. Okay. No worries. Converting to TS objects. Wait a second. Hold on. Oh. npx dget. And I need to give it the URL. Not that. Okay. What? Okay. Let's see. How CTS objects. Objects. There we go. All right. We got our two files. Finally going. It's all good. Let's make this a little bit bigger so that everyone can see it. Okay, so we have some functions that we're bringing in up at the top. This looks like a function. Everything in lowercase looks like a function. So we're introducing a person, asking whether someone's a full-time employee or not, converting a person to a string, and giving their professions. And then we also, I guess, have a constant here. Let me mute my notifications and all that. Okay. All right, whatever. There we go. Hey-yo, hey-yo. Do not disturb. Okay. So then we have a person, which I guess would be, well, me in this case. And a person structure has a name, a first and a last, a status, and then a profession, which is a string. Cool. And let's see, we can introduce person and ask if they're a full-time employee, convert the person to a string, and then get their professions, which I guess would give you engineer in this case. But it's interesting that it's this weird map of, like, I guess an ID here to a person. Sometimes you get data like that, I guess. Okay, so let's take a look over here in objects. This is where we're getting our implementations. We got some constants here. We've got full-time and temporary. This looks pretty simple. It basically takes this person string and then drops in here person name first. Okay. Is full-time employee, that checks that person's status. Let's make this a little bigger so we can see it. Person to string. Oh, it's got a default value in there. That's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how we deal with that. And then get professions, takes the values in that map, and there you go. So, okay, I'm in. I'm sold. Let's try this out. So what we're going to do is we're going to say node test.js first, and we'll track that back to what it actually is doing. Let's, you know what? We can put it side by side. So, oh, that's not the right thing to do side by side. Where's the control for that again? Oh yeah, move panel left. How about move panel right? That looks better. Okay, so let's see. Introduce person has given us hello undefined Jack undefined Harrington. Okay, that's because the middle in this case is missing there. Fine. Is full-time employee has given us true. This person a string is basically just giving us a big old JSON blob, and then get professions. Okay, so as long as we see something that looks like this, then we're good to go. Cool. All right. Let us start our conversion to TypeScript. So let's move this to the bottom. And now I'm going to add to this project, even though there is no project, I'm going to add TypeScript and TS node in development mode. And then I'll add a script to start this up. And we'll use TS node and then test.js just to make sure that we can, TS node can run JS. It can. Well, let's try it anyway. We'll run that, and it's a little slower, you know, because it's got to go through that conversion between, well, I guess, got to go through that type checking, but there is no TS yet, so. Okay, let's change over, oops, hey now, JS to TS. Same thing over here. And the first thing it's going to do is complain that we are importing stuff wrong, which is true. So let's import stuff the right way. All right, that's looking pretty good. And now let's see if it still works. It does. Okay, so that's showing you that TypeScript files can now talk to JavaScript files. Well, they always could, but that's good to know. So let's go and convert this guy to TS as well. And now the problem is that these exports aren't great. So let's do export const. Oof, wow. And that's actually pretty good, except that we want to have these guys be constants, like that. But otherwise, I think that actually converted pretty well. So we are introducing person, asking for a full-time employee, and then doing person to string, and then get professions. Hello, y'all, all four of you. I'm testing out a new microphone today. It's just this little lavalier kind of mic-y thing. So if you like it, let me know. If you don't like it, let me know. It's a little bit easier for me on setup, so you know, if it sounds about the same, then I'm good with that. Interesting. Okay, so now starting it, we get this interesting thing. Property values does not exist on type object constructor. So that's in reference to this guy down here, 21. And what that's telling us is that TypeScript, with the current types that it knows about, does not know about object.values. So what we do to fix that is we go and add those types in. So we go yarn add, thank you. Awesome, good. Types node. Awesome, thanks again. Okay. And now TypeScript will see the types associated with node, and in which case, in this case, it also has object.values. So let's start that one again. And it works just fine. So it was complaining about this, but that's because it just didn't understand all of the built-ins. Fair enough. Okay. So I think what we really want to start by doing is figuring out like this person thing. So let's go over here and grab this guy, and we'll type him. Because that really, all of this rotates around this person thing. So let's start off with a type, call it person, and just paste that in. And we can just start right away. This is obviously a string. This is a string too. Okay, let's get back around to that one. This is a string. And then we're missing a middle, like that. So let's go and do that. So let's do middle. Okay, now what do we do with this guy? So if we were to go and define this earlier, which I'm not sure it matters or what or not, and then do full-time or temporary, that's okay. Well, not great, because full-time refers to a value. So this is a value, but it's being used as a type, right? So this is asking for two types, right? And so it asks us, do you mean the type of full-time? But the type of full-time is a string, right? So what that would effectively be is, string, well, sorry, not quote string or string if we did that. If we were to put in here type of full-time, because that's a string. That equates to string. So we don't want to do that. We really want it to be either one of those two values. So, hey, Carlos. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to export an enumeration, which is really familiar to you if you've done like a C++ or full-time or temporary. And we got to give this a name. So we'll call it status for your employment status. And now we've got this type that can have two possible values. It can have full-time or it can have temporary. So that's actually pretty nice. So let's use that down here. So status.fulltime. and status.fulltime down here. There we go. And then back over here, we're now lost full-time. So we bring in status, we bring in status.fulltime, and we're good. Let's get rid of this for a second. Okay, so now we've got a type of person. So let's go and use it. So let's go say that that's now a person, because introduce person, well, let's take that out first so we can show you what it is before that. So introduce person currently says it'll take anything. Anything's a person, but it'll return a string, which is interesting, right? Because it doesn't know, let's bring that up again. It doesn't know what this is, but it does know what that is. So that's interesting. And why does it know what that is? Because it's looking at the expression that's going on here. It's basically saying, well, that's a string template. So the only thing that's going to resolve to is a string. So that's why it can infer the return value. So let's type this. And let's see, do we have any problems? Let's go over to our console. Well, we do have a problem. So what's the problem? Argument type this. Okay, let's click on that. Oh, okay, so we're back into here. So this is not a person as we defined it, because it's missing that middle. So now we can either add a middle, or we can use another TypeScript extension point or syntax extension, which is to say it's optional. So now this basically says, well, it's okay if you don't have a middle, right? That's part of the contract, and the contract's, that's fine, good to go. People can say that they don't have a middle name, which is fine. And the result is still the same, right? Jack, undefined, Harrington. But now everything checks out. If we get rid of that again, if I were to try and run this, it would blow up. But interestingly, actually, and I talked about this before, but it's worth reiterating. So if we use TypeScript and TSC, the TypeScript Compiler, we'll call this, I guess, build, and we'll just run it on anything that's TS. So now it won't run, but will it build? Will it blend? Well, it will give us an error, but it will also give us JS files. So that's really important to notice that, like, you know, even if it fails type validation, you'll still get JavaScript files out the end of it. So that's something to watch out for when you are doing your compile stuff. You got to watch for the exit code on this as opposed to watching for the presence of JavaScript files at the output, because it's always going to put out JavaScript files, regardless of if all the types are correct or whatnot. Okay, but let's go and make it back to being optional again, which makes it nice and works. All right, but we're gonna leave. So well, let's just make sure. So introduce person. Yep. Okay, so it takes a person and it returns a string. You could be more precise about this. You could put in string if you wanted to, but that's redundant. And all the seemingly best practices that I've heard around TypeScript have said, you let the engine infer stuff for you. So my personal advice would be to let the engine infer that. Okay, so again, this one is full-time employee. It doesn't know the input, so it's still any person, but it returns a Boolean because the output of this expression is always going to be a Boolean. So we can type that one as well. Now, this one's kind of interesting. So we've got a default value. So where do we put the type? Would we put it here? No, that's a syntax error. We end up putting it here because you want to put it right next to the variable declaration. It's variable declaration, colon, and then the type if you're doing types. So let's see, are we good? No problems, which is, probably means we're good. So let's do our start and try it out. Okay, cool. And we can remove those JavaScript files too. That's fine. Those are just temporary. Oh my gosh, I haven't had lunch yet. Now my stomach's gurgling. Okay, so one more to type, which is this guy. So what is he currently saying? Well, again, person map is any, and it returns a type of string. That's not true though. So it's an object, right? But how do we key that? Well, what we do is we say it's a key. That key would be a number, and the value in this case is going to be a person. And that's how we type a map like that. So you can also, you don't have to do that. You can also say something like, for example, type person map is that. And now if you've got this a bunch of times, if you have got a bunch of these person maps, then there you go. Person map. Cool. Nice. And what are you getting out of all this, right? You're getting some really cool stuff. So if I go here and I say, you know, what can I get out of this person, right? So I can get name, and then within name I can get first, middle, and last, right? So I'm getting a lot of value out of this thing, this mapping. And of course, if I go and change any of this, like let's just say preferred profession, right? Now I can start to see, oops, that's wrong, you know, and it starts like going flag out all the stuff that I've now changed this contract, and I'm getting everywhere, all the insights as to everywhere I've now violated all my contracts, which is great. So really good insight and nice from my customer perspective, right? So when I'm going and building out like one of these guys, right, I'm starting to get hinting as to what should be in there. You know, name, profession, status, all of that. Okay, so can we make this work? This introduce person like that? Well, what are we getting as an error first off? Well, we're getting expected that we got one, we expected that we needed one argument, but we didn't get any. So how do we fix that? Well, we can go back over here and use our question mark, just like we did before, and say, well, person is optional. But let's go in our terminal and run that. And oops, that's a problem. Because now we've dereferenced person.name, but person.name is undefined, which is not great. It's the JavaScript version of your null pointer exception. And okay, so what are some options around this? We could do, let's see, we could go crazy with this. Let's go. All right, so I could say, oh wait, you know what? I could put in a really nasty little ternary here. So let's see, I can say person and person.name and person.name.first is person.name.first or first. How about them apples, right? That's some high class code right there. That's the kind of thing everybody wants to code review. Maybe a default value. Could use that for sure. But we can also use optional chaining. So I can put in here, if person exists, then dereference to name. If name exists, then dereference to first. Or if that's not the case, then put in first. All right, so let's go down here and try it again. So it blows up, but now it's blowing up on middle. So let's fix the rest of it. Or middle, I guess. And then person name last. And this is cool. Actually, this works in JavaScript too if you add in the Babel extension for optional chaining. So this is not just a TypeScript thing. This is going to be in Babel, in both TypeScript and JavaScript going forward. So let's see, last. And then we'll bring it up. We'll fire it up one more time. Okay. So now it's giving me first, middle, and last because those are the default values when we, yeah, pretty new, exactly. Pretty new, but cool. Okay, so one more thing about this. So let's try this out with a slightly different thing. We're gonna go over here and just pop in an object. This is a little bit differently than when I put it in the video. Okay, I'm gonna put in first there and experiment a little bit with like what's going on here. First, last. Oh, that's not quite right. How about, yeah, let's just put in empty strings like that and see what happens. Okay, so interesting. Okay, so I specified a value, but it took the default anyway. And the reason is because this guy is really, well, I guess the networking term for it would be promiscuous. In that, or basically the contract is this: if what's on the left-hand side is null or undefined or empty string or zero or false-ish, then take whatever's on this side. But you can be a bit more precise. You can use the question mark operator in TypeScript, and that basically the contract is much more precise. It says if this is undefined or null, then use this. Otherwise, take that value, right? And so let's try and see what happens here. In fact, kind of interesting. This is a practical example. How about Joe Smith or Jane Smith, right? So now middle is still undefined, but what we really want is we want that to just be an empty space, right? So let's take a look at this, yarn start. And now you're getting Jane Smith, and that's great. That's what we want. So it hasn't taken, well, actually, is that telling us anything? Yes, that's telling us something because middle is undefined. And so now it's putting in an empty string in there for middle. And in all honesty, let's actually make this so it's really the way that I think I would probably do it in real life, which is say person first, person middle like that, and person name last. And then, because this little like extra space in there annoys me. I'm just that kind of person. So, and then I'm going to join that with spaces. Is that gonna remove the extra space? I don't think so. Hold on, let's try. Nope, we retained that space. So, oh, this is terrible. Filter s dot length. Okay, now let's try it. Yay! And I removed the extra trailing space. So what that's doing is basically saying this is going to be an array of strings. We only want strings where the length is greater than 0. And so the expression s.length is basically saying true and false. You could do is greater than 0 if you like. You could use a ternary in there. Is greater than 0 is true or false. That kind of thing. It really depends on how verbose you want to be about it. I'd probably stick with this guy. I think this is a little tricky, but I like that one. I like this one. That was actually quite nice, and it gives us the 0 space. Okay, so cool. This is actually the end of the video that I posted on Wednesday. I'm curious to see if you folks have any more questions, if there's other things that I can clarify, particularly around object typing. The next video on TypeScript is going to be around arrays and how to manage those, and then we'll get on to classes and then into generics, because I think that's really where TypeScript starts to get fun. So any questions you have, please drop those in the comments now, and we'll stick around for a little bit, have a chat, and yeah. So let's see. While I wait for you to jump in with any ideas, I don't know. The update for me is I'm actually changing jobs. This is my last day at my current job, so I'm going to a startup, an AI startup. So that's pretty exciting. And let's see what else is going on. Yeah, as I say, I'm going to take a little mini vacation down to a place called Sisters in Oregon. That's really pretty, nice out in the forest, out in the Deschutes National Forest. So really nice. So the thing that we do after this is we go over to the Discord server, and then you can chat with me about this. Oh, thanks, John. And let's go get the URL for that. So if you want to jump on that, there's a whole bunch of places where that URL is, but here we'll go back to my GitHub homepage, and here I'll pop the link for you to the Discord server. Oops, how about the link? That'd be a good idea. Copy link address. There we go. Nice. So we'll go over there and you can have a chat, and it's not gonna be recorded or anything, and you can just ask me whatever you want. I'm actually, so in preparation for this new job, I'm actually kind of stacking up a whole bunch of videos, both on TypeScript and also on the introduction to React. But I am going to be doing a 4-part series on GraphQL, which is really exciting. And I really haven't gotten all the code written yet, so there's still time to just sort of bend and shape the example into something, you know, you might like better. And currently I'm thinking about doing it around Spotify, kind of like building playlists and stuff. But I need something that's going to have a contract with the GraphQL server that is a read contract, a write contract, obviously mutations. So we would cover both getting and querying and mutations. And then something also about, hi Carlos. Also about subscriptions. So we need some sort of example that would imply, you know, queries and mutations and subscriptions. So, okay, I remember reading about a type. It's like an object. Is a type like an object? I've heard a type as a value, but no. I mean, so interesting thing about TypeScript is everything has underlying tenets. Hold on, let me go back into the screen. Everything has underlying philosophies when it comes to language design. And one of the important language design, oh, fantastic, Osama, that's awesome. Yes, tar-based subscriptions as well. So to me, subscriptions is like the candy at the end of the GraphQL trail. It's like, oh my God. Like I remember the first time I saw subscriptions and I was like, it's amazing. So yes, I'm absolutely going to cover subscriptions. Anyway, so one of the things about TypeScript, one of the tenets of the language is that it needs to be fully removable, meaning that you should be able to remove all of these type annotations and run the code and have it work. Meaning that it's not going to build any extra code for you as part of the compilation process. And so when you think about types as objects or values, it can't, the result of that, whatever that is, can't be that the TypeScript engine would generate code for you outside of what you can do in JavaScript. What's the difference between types and interfaces? Oh my gosh, I really need a great answer to this. Okay, so let's try this out. Yeah, right? John's like, oh, we asked this question last week. All right, so let's take a look. So let's try interface on this one. So has changing this from type to interface then any problems? No, it hasn't. But what I would say is, personally, I tend to use interfaces where I would do it like this, you know, I person, right? And then I would probably be extending, you know, class, you know, person implements I person like that, right? Which it doesn't currently, because we'd have to go and add in all that value. So that's when I tend to use interfaces. But okay. I need to come up with a much better reasoning and example. And everything that I've read is like, wow, there's such a gray area between these two that like why you choose and when you choose them. No, like there's no great answer on that. I can use an interface like a type for arguments. Yes, you can, totally. We just did, right? So like this works just fine. Well, except for the fact that it's now I person, but when it was person, it worked just great. So yeah, absolutely. You can totally use it like a type. Interesting. So yeah, let's play around with that a little bit. So let's just make this like a type person with name. We're just gonna play at the moment before we wrap this up. So we just make a person as a name only. And this guy only requires a name, right? So introduce person. So can I do this? Could be. So what this is saying, or like that? Does that work? So we're mixing these, right? We got a type person with name. We've got an interface person. And now we're saying this introduce person will take either. So let's go take a look at, can we do, that's weird. That's weird. Exactly. Can types be extended? I don't think so. That's a, John, that's a great one, actually. So yeah, you see now introduce person works because in this case with just Jane Smith, because person with name just has the name, right? So this one works. In fact, they all probably work because now they all just have that. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so let's try that. Can a type be extended? Well, all right. So just we're person with let's see, interface person with dog extends person, and then we'll add in let's see, whatever dog name. Right. So that's what John's talking about. Clearly, you can do that, right? And then, for example, like if I were to do this person with dog, now nothing would work because nobody's got a dog yet. But can we do it with types? Well, you can kind of do that. So here, John, check this out. So, yep, person with name. And we got person with profession. And then do that, right? Or, or sorry, profession info, I guess. And what you could do is you could say person with name and profession info. What? Didn't that? Oh, there we go. Oh, sorry, not double and, just regular and. Profession info. And let's see. So if I save that, then this guy doesn't work but this guy does. So this, you can create a union type. And is that an extension? Right? So this is effectively, this interface, right? So that's an interesting thing to think about. Whereas, if you say that, then you're saying either, but this means that you need both, right? So you can you can merge types together and what you're using this and operator, and you get the union set of whatever these types are. So if this also included, I don't know, the name as well, then there'd be no delta between these two things, and it would just add together. So you can do that kind of thing. Does that make any sense? Yeah, I guess the only other thing is I question whether interfaces or types is going to hurt you in terms of generics. Yeah, right? It is bitwise, and it totally makes no sense because it's not bitwise. Yeah. Have you ever gotten an interview question on bitwise operators? Like, who in God's name in JavaScript land actually uses bitwise operators in JavaScript? Like, I can get it. I get it. C++, device control, absolutely, you're going to be using that kind of stuff. Low-level operating system stuff where you put on flags for like read, write, execute, all that. Awesome. Bitwise operators, yes, absolutely. But like JavaScript? Really? Come on. Okay. Wow, those are great questions, and thank you for adding on to the video by having me go through that. And you know what? I'll keep doing my research, John, and Osama and Tara on interfaces versus types. Yeah. We do what? Just out of curiosity. Oh, okay. You do enums. Okay. Yeah. Enums. I think enums are an excellent addition to the language, honestly. So many times. Oh, I see. You use bitwise operators through enums, is probably what you're saying. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So if you've got like multiple flags on something and you want to be able to just kind of like union set that into like an integer, then yeah, I can see that. Fair enough. All right. But if you're just a React person, if you're just like building out like a Bootstrap UI, I can't imagine you ever would use bitwise operators. Fake enums. Yeah, they are fake enums. Well, if you let's go take a look. Let's go let's see how it's actually built it. So let's do yarn compile and see what it's come up with. Did I thought of it? Oh, it's yarn build. That's what I called it. Oh wow, it didn't like that. Whatever. Still generated it still generated the JavaScript. Okay, so that's what it created for our enum. So there you go. And I wonder, I gotta say, I wonder, var, I gotta say, I wonder if that actually violates the removability. If enums violate that removability standard, because if you remove this, like this that goes away. So, like now the code is not functional anymore. So that's something to think about, I guess. I thought there were some issues with exporting enums. Not that I can see. Yeah. Oh God, you built frameworks in prototype, like the old like prototype.js, really? Oh my God, it has been, wow. Or are you talking about like the JavaScript prototypes? Prototype.js, wow. I haven't seen prototype.js code in 15 years. Okay. Well, this has been fantastic. Tarabas and John, I hope you come over to the Discord server, hang out, let's have a chat, and talk some more about all this stuff. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for dropping by. As always, just to finish up this video, be happy, be healthy, and be safe. Bye.